Hello and welcome to another episode of Forward Vintage. Please subscribe to support our channel so that we can talk more about other vintage items and how to use them, as well as, cameras and radios and all sorts of record players. It's a lot of fun. So subscribing to our channel really helps what we do. So today we're going to be talking about these sort of vintage Sony, Panasonic, AM, FM radios from the late 70s or early 80s that sound really terrific, and they're super fun to use now that radio is kind of coming back. They're also pretty stylish. Like this one here is a Sony circa 1980, and I want to talk about how to use it and how to take care of it if you find one, and just to kind of keep this thing sounding great. So how do we use this particular model? This one doesn't have anything glowing, right? Sometimes they have, the AM FM dial starts to glow. There's no light in this one, but it has this sort of fun loudness function here, which, basically if it's off, it's a little bit lower in volume, and if it's on, it's a little extra boost in volume, which makes this thing sound great in a bigger room. Believe it or not, there's one speaker here, but the thing sounds very, very good. And it's got the basic power for volume, right? Turning it on to the max, right? To the left and to the right. You can adjust the tone on this one over here, right? And then you can select FM or AM by switching here back and forth. And then finally is the tuning knob, right? You notice that you can actually tune the different stations, and it shows you over here. And if I turn this around on the back, there's a little area here. So if you're not getting the best reception with the internal antenna, you can connect an external antenna that you can purchase online, right? Or you can create your own antenna and connect it by unscrewing these points here and connecting it to your antenna. Now, how do we take good care of this, very vintage item, right? So many times when people buy a vintage radio or a vintage receiver or even a record player, there are lots of knobs, and you might turn it on and it might sound like garbage, or it might not turn on at all, or it might just make big loud cracks and pops, right? And that's because the internal circuits and the internal knobs are oxidized, right? Because over time, gradually, the oxygen in the air eats away at those components and, either rust them or just kind of makes them kind of gross, and they don't work very well. So I highly suggest, if you're picking up one of these for the first time, you would need to really thoroughly clean every single knob. So the great thing about this is the knobs come off. So you can pop the knob off. All right, and here's an example. And underneath, we have this sort of metal, right? So we can actually spray a little contact cleaner in there. And in the back, I actually highly recommend that these actually open up in the back, and you can take a look inside. And when you open it up, by the way, if you ever get one of these, you need to know what you're doing, because you can electrocute yourself. Notice the caution, risk of electric shock, do not open. If you really don't know what you're doing and you don't feel comfortable, please don't open it up, because there are big capacitors that can shock you. So, but if you do know what you're doing, right, and you feel comfortable, and I'm not recommending or not, you could use a little contact cleaner on the inside of each of those knobs and clean them off by moving them back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and that should get the thing going again. Again, word to the wise, be extra super careful, and do this at your own risk. So this one I cleaned up really nicely. I went in and I cleaned up the circuit boards, and I cleaned up all the knobs, and I also used some compressed air to get rid of the collected dirt over the past 40 some odd years. And it sounds really, really great, and I love it. And I think that anyone who picks one of these up, especially this one, which is in our shop right now, is going to have a great time with it. And so that's basically how I use this particular model, but most of them work pretty much the same. So I'd like to thank you for watching our video, and I hope this really helped on learning how to use this particular Sony model and any of these radios. And please subscribe to support what we do. We really like to spread the word about vintage items and sell all these different types of vintage electronics in our shop, which is forwardcameras.com. And please also follow us at Twitter at forwardcameras and Instagram at forwardcameras. All of this really helps what we do, and we love to have followers. So please check us out. Thanks for watching.